Welcome everyone to the Wisconsin Whistle. I'm your host Dan Vachalek, aka Dyhard. I wish we had some positive news or positive things to talk about today. We do actually with the Packers in the NFL draft that has completed this past weekend. Some good picks, some head scratching picks, and some questionable decisions. But you know, the thing about it is we don't know how these players are going to play, and we have no idea if the last pick is the best player out of the draft or if they're the worst. We have no idea, so it's all speculation and talking points on there. We also have to talk about the Bucks, which is the negative. Unfortunately, I do not have any news on Doc Rivers yet. Thought I could lead off the show with that. I'll get into the Giannis scuffle, the scuffle between players as well. Tyrese Halliburton's dad. Talk about the off season, what we expect there. I'll talk Dame as well. I'll talk the games a little bit as well. Kind of what went wrong, what happened in Game 5. The history that was made in a negative fashion and a positive fashion. Got a lot to talk about today, so stay tuned. Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is. Welcome everyone to the Wisconsin Whistle. I'm your host. I got to figure out this picture. I'm little. Okay, well, we'll play around with that later. I'm your host Dan Vachalek, aka Dyhard. Bucks lost last night. The game was very, 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 very frustrating. Not really sure. Just not really sure how it fell apart like it did. Still trying to figure out this edit layout. Nope. All right. Well, I'll just be little in the middle of the screen today. Still want to figure out how this game kind of went. Game 4, you see what players were doing well. We saw a victory. It looked like there was some positivity going on. Game 3, more so actually, was the positivity. My apologies. Game 3, we saw positive stuff going on. Of course, Anthony Cupo was going off. You had Gary Trent Jr. going off. I mean, it was a very positive game. Then you saw Game 4 where, it looked like the team just wasn't cutting it. And the lineup change that everybody wanted, I don't know, I'd say 20 games ago, 15 games ago, finally happened in Game 5 where we started off with Porter, AJ Green, Trent, Giannis, and Bobby Portis all in the lineup. Lopez barely played. Prince played a little bit. The Bucks got off to an incredibly hot start last night, up 13-0 actually, to start off the game. The starters, Giannis, Bobby, Gary, Kevin, and AJ, all played over 44 minutes. Unfortunately, you have Gary Trent, Kevin Porter, and AJ Green that had the most minutes. Gary Trent played 48 minutes. Kuzma had 13. Taurean Prince had 4 minutes. It did nothing like he did the entire series. Kuzma he had 5 rebounds. That was positive. Jericho Sims was very positive. Defensively, he had 4 offensive rebounds as well, which is, incredible. He had a couple putback dunks. Gary Trent put up another 33 at the 12 overtime points. However, he had the 2 turnovers in overtime that kind of sealed the deal for the Bucks. Bobby, his shooting wasn't the best, but he did have 10 boards. The history that was made that was positive that I'll start out with was Giannis had a 30, 20, and 10 game. That's a triple-double, but he had 30, 20, 10, 2, and 2, which means he had 2 steals and 2 blocks as well, and that's the first time a player in NBA history has done that in the playoffs. And then, Brook Lopez had 8 points, no rebounds, 2 points, free throws, and that was it. And this starting lineup that the Bucks brought out last night is what everyone's wanted. Like, this is what game 2 should have been. Instead of Porter starting, Dame, obviously, when he came back. But this is the lineup that everyone's wanted. Taurean Prince has done nothing. He got 4 minutes and did nothing in those 4 minutes except to have a turnover and a block and a rebound. But, his 3 was awful. He killed 2 drives immediately, a turnover, and then that failed 3. Lopez, again, did nothing. You saw he wasn't really needed when he was in for the 8 minutes. The plus minus is a little, I'd say, misleading. But, when Lopez came in, they just kept blowing by him. They took advantage of Prince and Lopez, who couldn't stop a couch. Kuzma, he had 5 rebounds. So, okay. Yeah, he finally, did some stuff. But that trade, I know I talked very positively about, Kuzma coming in and getting rid of Middleton. And I'm standing on the I'm happy Middleton's gone. But Kuzma has not – that trade is awful. A.J. Johnson has done great in Washington. Middleton, of course, he's hurt again. But Kuzma has cost games. Game 1, he had zeros across the board in 22 minutes. I think he went a total of 28 or 29 minutes in the series consecutively with zeros across the board. Hasn't really done much at all, and I'll get into that as well. But there's some players that the Bucks are going to have to address this offseason. I will say Lopez is betting favorite right now to be the Lakers' starting center next year. Obviously, we've been hearing this for a couple years now with him being the betting favorite to go to Houston, L.A., multiple different cities, and the Bucks keep bringing him back. Hopefully that's not the case again. And, we'll get into what exactly happened Game 5, talk a little bit about Game 4. I want to talk about Giannis as well, his scuffle. It's been all over the news, all over everywhere. If you haven't seen what happened during our sponsorship break coming up here in about a minute and a half, I suggest you, quickly go look at that and just watch the video on what happened from Tyrese Halliburton's dad that started everything that Giannis has said was disrespectful, to Giannis walking up to him and having a conversation, I'll say, with him. So we'll get into that. I'll also talk about his little, skirmish with Mathurin as well. Talk about that a little bit. And then also I want to cover some NFL draft picks from the Packers because we finally drafted a wide receiver in round 1. I was ecstatic about that. Matthew Golden. That is a golden pick. But round 2 was a little questionable. Round 3, we went with another wide receiver, and we didn't grab a position of need corner until round 7. So that kind of brings to light a question about Jair Alexander. What's going on with him? It just stuff that, what we should expect from these players, what we're looking at for these players, and my thoughts on the entire draft is I had to do some research on the later rounds, 5th through 7th, for really. Savion Williams, I also had to do a little research, and Anthony Belton I was not expecting in round 2, was expecting in round 4. So we will talk about that, but let's hear a quick word from our sponsors. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. This is the Wisconsin Whistle. I'm your host, Dan Vachalek, a.k.a. Dyhard.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Still, okay, here's this one's a little better. Nope, don't want that. All right, well, this is a little better. I guess I'm a little bigger. Yeah, it looks all right. So I look a little bigger. So that's what I was trying to hope for, is get a little bigger right there. So you can follow the show page at Whisk Whistle IESR on Twitter or X, WISC Whistle IESR. Very active on there, live tweeting games and everything. Or you can follow my personal page at Dyhard, DYHARD. Again, that's my personal page. I try to be a little more censored with wordage and stuff and thoughts on the show page, as it's a reflection of obviously the network, but also it is true, genuine thoughts. My personal page, it's a little more fun, special words, might drop some different words on there, so it's a little more censored, uncensored rather, on thoughts on different stuff. Again, I don't speak politics on either page, so you don't have to worry about that, because that has no place in sports. So talking about earlier with Taurean Prince, through the first 4 games, just to speak of how bad he is. So the first game, 0 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Second game, 6 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, which is fine. Third game, 0 points, a rebound. Fourth game, 0 points, a rebound, and an assist. And last night, 0 points, 1 block, 1 rebound, 1 turnover. Obviously, he's useless. The other good thing is he's a free agent. So as a collective for Bucks fans, I'd like to wave him goodbye. Goodbye. Please do not come back. He can get run out of town just with Doc. That would be fantastic. I wish Kuzma, but Kuzma will be back. I wish he could go with him. Another free agent is Brook Lopez. Everyone waved bye to Brook Lopez, because that's what should be happening. Brook Lopez is, while he did do pretty well from the 3-point line and did do very well with blocks, this man should not be on the Bucks. He's old. He played. So this is the funny thing, is in April he played 30 minutes a game, March 32 minutes, February 30 minutes, January 30 minutes, December 31 minutes, November 33 minutes, and October 30 minutes a game. So for the regular season, he averaged 31.8 minutes a game. When you come, stupid ad. Okay. When you come to the playoffs, what is up with this in ads? Okay. When you come to the playoffs for the Bucks, it is game 1, 21 minutes. He had 9 points, 4 rebounds. I'd say that was probably one of his best games, along with game 2, 8 points and 4 blocks, 16 minutes. Those 4 blocks came in the first half. Then you go to game 3, 15 minutes, 0 points, 0 blocks, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Game 4, again, 15 minutes, 6 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound, 1 block, had a steal, 4 fouls. Go to game 5, 8 minutes, 2 points, and nothing else. And those 2 points, mind you, came on free throws. So why was he starting all these minutes in the regular season if you don't play him in the postseason? Why were we wasting time with him starting? I get, okay, Bobby Portis is out, so he's got to play some more minutes. That's fine. But the rest of the time, what are you doing? What's going on here? Why is he continuing to start for so many games? I just don't understand that. And then when it comes to the playoffs, you wait until game 5 to switch up your lineup. Switch it up in game 2, game 3. You wait until the series is pretty much over to switch up the lineup. It's just, this is why Doc Rivers needs to go. And I'm kind of disappointed I didn't see this news today of Doc Rivers leaving, getting fired, because that's what needs to happen. You need to, in order to keep Giannis, I know Giannis has said that he likes him and was a part of him coming to the Bucks, which is a different conversation to have. But again, that's a player making a call. And while, yes, you want to keep him happy, as an organization, you should look at Doc Rivers' track record to see that he's done nothing with any organization other than win a championship with a fully loaded, high-running, gunning Boston Celtics team that had KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and it had Rondo on it. Plus, their team was just it was trying to keep up with the Heat and what the Heat were doing with the big 3, and they made like a big 7. And that's what he won with. He was basically almost gifted a championship with that team. Granted, yes, you have to play the games, blah, blah, blah. But he did nothing in LA. He did nothing in Philly, and now he's run this team into nothing. Your defense is no good at all. In any game, did the defense play well at all? I'd say maybe in game 4, you could say the defense played all right, but the offense played pretty well in game 4, I'd say. Gary Trent and Giannis both were going off 37 points each, I believe. And the Bucks shot 47%, 36 from 3. I mean, Indiana was basically matching that left and right. Rebounding was pretty much the same. 8 more rebounds for the Bucks. Again, the assists. Indiana was able to pass the ball all over the place, find mismatches, do whatever they wanted, and they continued to make threes the entire series. It's very frustrating when you watch a game, you see the Bucks do something well, and then you turn around and you see the complete opposite from their defense, where Indiana is able to do whatever they want. Cut. They're able to get offensive boards. They're wide open at 3. Everybody's open. You're getting killed by TJ McConnell. It's very frustrating to watch as a fan. And then when you turn around and you come back from a commercial break because there was a timeout, you think the coach, hey, okay, our coach is going to make some adjustments. Or you come back from halftime, okay, he's going to switch up the lineup here because obviously the starters can't get anything rolling, so they're not going to run back out again to start the second half. Well, we look at, here's the starters again. And again, the bench brings it back to a close game, and now the starters are, just not playing defense. You have Prince, who's very slow. Everyone can run past him. His defense is bad. He stands at the 3. You heard me yell about Lopez stand at the 3 some weeks ago. I was very, very mad about Lopez standing at the 3 all game, and that's all he did at his defense, and, very mad at that. And it seemed like after that he kind of corrected it out a little bit, stopped standing at the 3 continuously. And, now we have Prince doing it. So it wouldn't be fair to yell at Lopez for doing it. I'm not going to yell at Prince right now just because the season's over. So what good is that? Because, as I said just, 5-10 minutes ago, goodbye, as, you need to leave. It's time to leave. Especially when we look ahead to the offseason here, and we're going to be looking at Damian Lillard not being here next year. And that's not because he's, going to a different team or we have to face him next year. No, he tore his Achilles, and he's pretty much out unless he pulls an Aaron Rodgers, which is, I would say, impossible in the NBA, especially with the movement cuts and everything that you have to do. You're not going to get Damian Lillard back until at best March. At best. That would be, at best case scenario, you're going to be back in March. Maybe late March, early April, you'll get him back. You know, late March, early April is pretty much at best. And as we see, the playoffs started middle April. So you're looking at April 19th is when the playoffs started. So if he comes back April 3rd next year, if the playoffs start around the 15th to the 19th, what are you going to get a couple games in? That's like a preseason warm-up before the playoffs when, you might have to win those games for seeding purposes. It could matter. Like this year, obviously the Pacers were able to use, like me and Big Mike at Indie Sports Nation had talked about, the Pacers were very, very fast up and down the court, their transition, how fast that they were able to move the ball. I think I still have that stat. Let's see where it is. Crossed half court before the shot clock hit 20 seconds, 76.8% of the time on full court possessions, 26.4% of the time before the shot clock hit 22, which is the third highest in the NBA. And how Pacers killed the Bucks on fast break points, especially the last two matchups. And we saw that rear its ugly head yet again in the postseason, where when the Pacers did want to move, especially in Game 5, it was most notable, where you saw when the Bucks did something good, if they were, celebrating themselves or wanted to pat themselves on the back of the head, you saw the Pacers all of a sudden, before the camera could even get down there, they're scoring at the other end, and now we're back inbounding and getting the ball. So, problems that I foresaw at the beginning of this series did definitely happen. Poor defensive play really, really killed the Bucks. It demolished the Bucks. It was not good whatsoever. And it's very, very disheartening to have to talk about this as a team, because you score 110.2 points in the playoffs and you still get, killed. You still get killed. You have Giannis that scores 33, 15, and 6 per game. Obviously, his turnovers ticked way up in the playoffs here, 4.6 per game, which is just astronomical. But you kind of average that out with, your assists and everything, so it wasn't terrible. But the defense is just what was killing the Bucks. 43 rebounds a game, which isn't bad. It was really the defense that just completely killed the Bucks. I want to pull up the Pacers stats. Actually, offensively, I thought they were going to say it, but they didn't. Pacers scored 117 points per game. Shot 39% from three, which is, 36.6 3-point attempts on average. Now you look at the Bucks, 38, but they also shot 37%. But every time you turn around, Indiana's making shots. Now, yeah, I can look at the stat right here and say, oh, okay, well, they only made 39%. Well, every time they needed a three, they made it. Every time they needed assists, they had them. When they needed cuts, they did them. The Pacers, when they needed a basket, that's when they got a basket. When they needed a stop, that's when they drew a wall on Giannis or forced somebody else to beat him. We saw that again in Game 3, where they forced Gary Trent to beat them as well, and he did. Last night, they forced Gary Trent to beat them. He scored 12 points in overtime off of threes. He was on absolute fire. And with 40 seconds left in the game, the Bucks are up 7 or 8 points. And Gary Trent had 2 turnovers. Luckily, we called the timeout on one of the turnovers that could have happened. But, you do that's horrible. You just gave the game away. There was no reason at all this should not have gone to game 6. There's no reason at all that this series should not have gone back to Milwaukee to force a game 7 after beating them in Milwaukee. I don't want to put the blame on Gary Trent, and I'm not fully, but your 2 turnovers really cost the Bucks the game. You really screwed over the Bucks in the game at the end, just off of that. It's just not acceptable to sit here and say, okay, 40 seconds left, teams are in, I think it's NBA history actually, but in the playoffs, teams are 1,000-0 when they're up by 8 or 7 with 40 seconds left. It's very typical for Wisconsin sports and the Milwaukee Bucks for us to see this, to say, you know what, let's make history and lose. I'm trying to see. He had 4 3-pointers and the 2 game changing, and then a half court heave that was 300 feet away from the basket. You're never gonna see that go in unless it's just some freak of nature thing that goes down. Tyrese obviously was able to go knock that, basically a free rein to the hoop to knock that in. Again, he blew past Giannis though, which is another thing. But you just can't do that. Honestly, you have to knock him out of the way or something. You have to just throw him off. If he's going to beat you at the line, he beats you at the line. But you can't allow him to just run to the hoop. The other thing too is I think Giannis figured, okay, I got to put this team on my back because the whole postseason he's had to. You look at Giannis's stats, and I have this up here on my phone here. Giannis obviously I said 30, 20, and 13 for this game. Game 4, 28, 15, and 6. Game 3, 37 points, 12 rebounds, 74% shooting. Game 2, 34 points, 18 rebounds, 70% shooting. Game 1, 36 points, 12 rebounds, 2 blocks. Giannis is putting up unheard of numbers. He's leading the NBA postseason in points per game. He's leading the field goal percentage, all these different categories. He's leading the entire postseason in and can't seem to get any help. You have Porter Jr., who looks like a shell of himself for the first several games until he would get hot a little bit. But this past game, I think, was pretty solid for him from an overall perspective. He was 4 of 10, but he had 7 assists, 3 boards, 11 points. Gary Trent, 33 points. He shot 25 times, including 17 threes, which I have no problems with. AJ Green was going off, 6 of 10 from 3, 19 points. As much shit as I talked about AJ Green, when he came back from that AC joint sprain or whatever it was with his shoulder injury that he suffered at the end of the Knicks game that I was at, it happened actually I was 10 feet from the court, so it happened 15 feet for me. When he came back from that, he's been, a different human. He's been a different shooter, and this is what I expected from him. They call him Derry Bird. Again, I said I would never use that, and I probably still won't. But he was clutch. He was great for us. Gary Trent was super clutch. Those guys definitely deserve contracts. AJ Green, I believe, is eligible for a 4-year, $98 million max. So, you have to re-sign those guys if you're looking – if we want to look to the offseason. Before I get into the scuffle on that game, because I do want to talk about that a little bit, but if we're going to look to this offseason here, Lopez has to go. I'm keeping Jericho Sims because his defense, screen, offensive rebounding, overall rebounding. I'm keeping him around. Portis, he'll probably opt out because he wants more money, which is perfectly fine. But I also think that he's going to opt in and then expect the Bucks to redo his contract to give him some more money, which is going to be fine. But the other problem, though, is that right now, because Dame isn't going to be, because if he's out, the Bucks are going to be under the second apron. They will not be under an apron, so they'll have their mid-level exception, unless they use that, I believe, on Portis if they want to, or AJ Green, then that will go away. But they have a $14 million mid-level exception. They have a second-round pick. They'll be below both aprons. So they have some wiggle room to move around. Pat's definitely taking his player option. Kevin Porter's got a player option. The Bucks definitely need to re-sign him. If he takes his player option, let him know, hey, sign this player option. We're redoing your contract, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the case is. The other notable is Giannis. I don't believe he's going to leave. However, he is going to talk to the Bucks organization and coaching staff within the next week to go over the offseason, his future with the Bucks, and so on and so forth, as there has been a lot of talk around the country by big talking heads of Giannis leaving. I don't believe, based on what we've seen from Giannis, heard from Giannis, that he is going to leave. I think this is speculation and probably, put a tinfoil on my hat for this, blah, blah, blah. But really the facts of the matter is that the media brings this up as a talking point, not only because the Bucks have had some injury problems the past couple of seasons. Last year, they were without Giannis and Dame for most of the series. The year before, Giannis was hurt. The year before that, we had Chris Middleton get hurt. And the Bucks have been one and done for 3 years in a row. Haven't really done much of anything since winning the championship. And so there is speculation that Giannis could be unhappy, but Giannis likes it in Milwaukee. He says he's from Milwaukee when people ask. Obviously he's not, but he's been here 10, 11 years. He said he's very loyal. They'd have to kick him out. He said a whole lot of things to make you believe that he's not leaving, and I don't think that he is. The big talking point, though, obviously is going to be because the Bucks are going to have to revamp their team. Clearly they're old. Lopez is old. Taurean Prince, he's not that old. I thought he was older than what he was. But Lopez is old. Bobby Portis is old. Dame's getting old. You're not going to have Dame, obviously, so you have to fill in gaps and spots and stuff. But I really think what the problem with Giannis in the media is that the media doesn't like to come to Milwaukee. We're the smallest market. I'd argue we're the absolute smallest market in the entire NBA. Maybe OKC, we compete with them for the small market, but we're very, very small market. At least OKC has warm weather and, stuff like that, I guess. They're closer to a bigger city. They have a better team. Their team's young and fun to watch. The Bucks, just have Giannis, who is super fun. And then, I enjoy watching the Bucks. I like a lot of their players. I like watching them. Obviously, I get frustrated when they lose. I'm happy when they win. But the media doesn't want to come to Milwaukee. Half the media hates when they have to come to Milwaukee, and I think they really want Giannis out of Milwaukee so they don't have to put the Bucks on TNT, ESPN, and come here during the playoffs. I think people don't like coming to Milwaukee. It's cold, especially all winter. It's very cold. It's snowy. It's icy. It's negatives. It's Milwaukee. There's nothing to do here really, especially with like big money wise. That we don't have a lot of extravagant specialty clubs. We don't have super high-end restaurants all over the place. We don't have, super high-end bars that, big cities have, like New York, LA, Chicago, stuff, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas even. Milwaukee's small. We have a lot of crime. And Milwaukee's not really the most attractive place. People don't really want to say that Milwaukee, that's where I want to go. Dame didn't want to come to Milwaukee if Giannis wasn't here. He wanted to play with Giannis. That was the big point for Dame coming here was Giannis. That's why the Bucks are on TNT and ESPN and ABC and on mainstream television a lot, because of Giannis, and the Bucks are very competitive every single season. The Bucks have Giannis. That he's the driving force. The NBA is forced to talk about the Bucks. Talking heads are forced to come to Milwaukee because of Giannis. And if they want to get Giannis out of here, that's a big talking point for them. And if they don't want to come to Milwaukee, well, Giannis leaves or forces their hand and makes a trade happen. They don't have a reason to come to Milwaukee because now we're not a playoff team. If Giannis is not here, we are not a playoff team. If Giannis is not here, we're not on national television except maybe once or twice a year or whatever the minimum requirement is. We'll be on NBA TV, but they don't care. They could just play the FanDuel Sports Network broadcast to throw us on NBA TV. Nobody has to come here except people who already are here or traveling teams. But I don't think Giannis is going anywhere. The people who I think are leaving are Lopez, for one, Taurean Prince, for two, Doc Rivers, definitely. And I think those are the three that are going to leave. Obviously, we have to figure out what to do with Ryan Rollins, Pat staying back, Chris Livingston, Sims. You're going to have to, Andre Jackson Jr., I'm not sure if he's I'm really not sure if Andre Jackson Jr. is still under contract or not. But you just have to look at what you're going to do with these players. You have, Umude. I don't really care with him, but Ryan Rollins, you need to figure out. He's 22, young guy. He's 6'3" guard with an incredible, I think he's got like a 7 foot or 6'9", 6'10" wingspan or something ridiculous at 6'3". He's definitely a good, nice backup that we could definitely have. I say, without Dame, he filled in very nicely. He was shooting threes, playing defense. Obviously, he had that game against Atlanta with 5 fouls. He had a couple other games that were trash, but outside of that, I thought he was overall very good. Taurean Prince is a guy that needs to go. Goodbye. Bobby Portis, his contract's a little big. He's 30. He's going to be our starter next year at center, more than likely. I don't think that you could start Sims. I just don't think Sims is a starter. I think he's a bench guy. I think he could play 20 minutes a game, 20, 25 minutes a game coming off the bench. Lopez, he's making 23 this year. You think he's going to take a $3 million, $4 million contract to come play with the Bucks next year and run it back? I don't think so. When LA could pay him 20 mil, a team's going to pay him 20 mil or 18 mil or something, whatever he wants. When ESPN writes their offseason lookout, they say, oh, well, he had all these 3-pointers and blocks and did this and that. And it's like, okay, that's great. We're looking at, basketball reference for stats, but did we watch him? Like, he doesn't rebound. That at 7-1 in the center, you have to have everyone else rebounding. So that's a problem. Lopez doesn't like to stay down low. That's another problem. The other problem is his defense is atrocious. If you look at blocks, oh yeah, his defense fantastic. You look at blocks, but you watch the game, everyone blows past him. He's responsible for point after point after point. He can't stay in front of men. He's slow. If a big's shooting a 3, which is a lot of bigs are now, Miles Turner is one. Carl Anthony Towns. I was going to call him Cat Williams. Jeez, Cat Williams is the opposite of big. But Carl Anthony Towns, he shoots threes nonstop. You got big guys that shoot threes now. Anthony Davis will get out there and shoot a 3. This is what you have. And if you have no speed and you're 38 years old, 37, 38 years old, it's not going to work. Kyle Kuzma, I hate that. I like the trade at the start, but he really, really disappointed. His 3-point shot is not good. His defense is all right. He's all right in transition, but it was like that trade really is going to go down as bad for the Bucks. And they did what they were supposed to do and get rid of Chris Middleton because he was just, ending the line. I think he doesn't have many years left at all. So they got something for him, but the big loss on that trade is going to be AJ Johnson because the Bucks never played him. And he goes into Washington and takes off. And we get Kyle Kuzma, who probably shouldn't be making more than AJ Green by 20 million at least this year, not at all. I'd rather play Pat Connaughton, especially with how the postseason went. It just, that's not something I look forward to. But, we'll see what the Bucks do. We're going to take about 5 minutes to cover this Giannis scuffle. And then we'll hear a quick word from our sponsors and dive into the the Packers draft class a little bit and end the show that way. But the Giannis scuffle with Tyrese Halliburton's dad. So basically, if you didn't catch what happened, after the final buzzer when Tyrese had made the basket, obviously the fans are happy. The Pacers rushed the court, as a team to celebrate and everything. They're advancing. And you have Tyrese Halliburton's dad, who, by the way, I don't think any Bucks fan or anyone in Wisconsin likes Tyrese Halliburton. The entire series, especially it elevated in Game 5, really badly in Game 5 on X and Twitter. But they wanted violence against him for a lot of the series. I will say the two Giannis violent calls that were not flagrant was kind of a little alarming. For most of the game, it did seem like the refs were against the Bucks for most of Game 5. There was a blocking call that went on that decided to get changed to an offensive foul on the Bucks. The same exact scenario happened for the Bucks, and it got changed to a defensive foul, blocking foul. There was a time where the Pacers stood in the lane for 8-9 seconds, and then all of a sudden nothing's called except a foul on the Bucks. But the guy stands with his foot on the line out of the paint, and the Bucks get called for offensive 3 seconds. There was a mysterious lane violation called on a free throw attempt that was missed, that after the next free throw attempt was made, you saw Doc Rivers actually tell the ref, like, this is bullshit. And it seemed to correct out the refs a little bit after he said that. It seemed like they started kind of getting a little more fair, got Giannis to the line some more, which was nice to see. But back to the scuffle. So Tyrese Halliburton's dad came out with a flag, and it was a flag of his son on it, and he was waving it in Giannis's face, kind of walked really close to him, and then stood from the top of the key to the three-point line, or the free throw line to the three-point line, rather, and waving this flag and started talking stuff to Giannis, saying, we effing do this, we do this, and you could tell that it was very aggressive. Giannis took it very disrespectfully. He even said he didn't know who that was. He thought he was a fan until someone let him know that it was Tyrese Halliburton's dad. And right then and there, I get you're celebrating, but Tyrese should have came over and checked his dad, got him under control, because you lean in and you're talking aggressively while you lower the flag down. He had the flag like this and lowered it down to lean in and talk aggressively to Giannis, and that's very disrespectful. I see how Giannis took that as disrespect, especially if you're not happy you just lost. I'm taking all that disrespect. It's very easy to get disrespectful. They said as much. Tyrese said that his dad's actions were inappropriate. He'll have a talking with his dad. He's got to talk to Giannis about it. He also said that he will talk to, his dad apologized and said that he was wrong for that. So after that little situation happened, Giannis was shaking hands with some guys and walked up to his dad, and you saw him grab his dad and pull him extremely close to him, which should be a meme. But he basically roughed him up a little bit he grabbed him by his shirt and pulled him close and was talking with him. And I'm pretty sure he told him how disrespectful that was and said some stuff. And they had to be separated. Obviously, they were probably going back and forth. They had to be separated. Giannis did end up pounding his chest and putting the thumbs up to him. So that was definitely on Tyrese's dad. He shouldn't have been on the floor at all. Honestly, I believe that it should only be players, win or lose. It should only be players on the floor. You guys can celebrate in the locker room. You guys can celebrate outside the locker room, whatever. But on the floor, it should be players only on the floor, unless it's the finals. The finals, yes, the celebrating team can have, their parents or their wife and children on the floor with them. I think that's acceptable. Well, playoffs, if it's not their children or wife, I think, you need to limit who's on the floor, children and wife only. Across the board, honestly, any game, there should be children and wife only on the floor if, they can handle themselves. But then, Giannis continues shaking hands, and he skipped Mathurin because he was shaking a different guy's hand, and apparently Mathurin had a problem with that, must have said something. Giannis kind of held him by the back of the head, kind of holding him like this while he was talking, and Mathurin was pushing him, and that kind of led to a really big scuffle. Nobody really threw anything, more arguments and stuff like that. And it just showed kind of, how heated this series was the entire time. Obviously, they tried to hurt Giannis. It appeared to me there was a couple fouls where the Bucks appeared. I would say it looked like the Bucks were trying to hurt Pacers players. Obviously, I had no problem with that. But I again, you have to try to slide that in. You can't blatantly do something to hurt another player and show that. That's just not acceptable in sports. But, if you, do a hard foul on somebody and you don't want to, it doesn't get elevated, more power to you. Obviously, no one wants to see players hurt, but, you want to play a little dirty and you can get away with it. By the Pacers, that's what they were doing. Bucks tried to do that as well. And there was sometimes Bucks got away with it, just like the Pacers got away with it. Overall, though, the Bucks defense let them down, and they have some big changes ahead this offseason. And there's a lot of players that we're going to have to address this offseason. I would try to trade Kuzma, but his worth is probably, nothing. Dame's out all next year. Doc's, we're going to have a new coach. I have extreme high confidence that we'll have a new coach. If we don't, John Horst should be fired immediately from owners. And that's the way that goes. But that scuffle, it was unfortunate. It has no place in sports to have someone's dad screaming at a player who just lost. And obviously, you didn't do anything. So you are a fan. When at the end of the day, you are a fan, so you have no room to scream at a player, especially you're a little guy. Giannis is pretty big, strong. He powered down and made the biggest Indiana Pacers players look like nothing as he powered down, dunked on people, bodied them, everything. And this is the guy you want to antagonize. And Giannis is also foreign. So, you don't think Giannis can handle you. Might want to think a little harder next time if you try that. Obviously, I don't expect Giannis to, attack him or beat his ass. But, again, not everyone's Giannis. Giannis did say in the post-game press conference, though, and this is my favorite part, I have a ring. They don't. So we'll leave it at that. The Bucks do have a ring. The Pacers do not. Tyrese Halliburton does not have a ring. Will it happen this year? Maybe, but probably not. So, again, we'll leave it at the entire scuffle in the series as the Bucks do have a ring. Giannis has a ring. Tyrese and the Pacers do not. You're listening to the Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Mike from Indy Sports Nation. Come hang out with me each and every Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk things Indiana sports. We talk Colts, Pacers, Fever, Indy Ignite, and we dive into the college scene as well. Boilermakers, Hoosiers, Irish, Bulldogs, and every school in between. But we don't stop there. We'll sprinkle in some NHRA and cover the IndyCar series. From the turf to the hardwood to the track, we got you covered. Come hang out with your boy, Big Mike, each and every Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Indy Sports Nation, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. The draft in Green Bay was a success. We had 600,000 people show up. I think 14.5 million people watched it on TV, or more than that. Some great stories, some other stories that, were kind of elevated a little bit as well. Shedeur going to Cleveland as the second quarterback picked in the 5th round. That's a big story. But again, I do want to make note on that, on how big of the story it was. I don't believe that the league had something out against him. I think more so his flashiness, cockiness, and his dad attached to him played a part. It seems like in college and high school, he hasn't really been coached by someone outside of his dad, which is a problem. He was very flashy, which I think, they're looking at as, okay, is he more concerned with being flashy or not? Plus, there's just the media circus that's going to follow him around. It is going to definitely be a problem, at least early on. Through training camp, especially in Cleveland right now. I'm sorry, but Browns fans, you have to go through this. But you're definitely, if Dylan Gabriel turns out as like, okay, this is the guy, Joe Flacco, and Shedeur is not starting, it doesn't matter who it is. It's going to be really bad if it's Dylan Gabriel. But if Shedeur is not starting, you're going to hear this constantly every single week. Is this the week Shedeur is going to start? Is this the week? Is this the week? It's not going to take until Shedeur, plays really, really bad for the media to stop asking that question. And it's going to be all year. Doesn't matter if he's horrible in practice and doesn't deserve starting. It doesn't matter if he's horrible when he does play in the preseason. The media is still going to want him to start games. So I think teams there was owners that were apparently wiping him off boards, and I think that was because of the media circus that's going to be behind that. Do I think Shedeur is good? Yeah, I think Shedeur has a lot of talent. I don't think that he was a first-round talent. I don't think he was a fifth-round talent either, though. I think he was more of like second, third, or fourth. Not even fourth. I think second or third. Third round would have been acceptable for him. However, he kept falling. And that's just because people didn't want to deal with that media stuff. People questioned his character. He was very cocky and arrogant, and people just didn't think that he was a starter caliber quarterback right now, straight out of college, that he needed more development. He needed time. He just that's the case there. Speaking of great stories, though, so Baron Sorrell, the Packers defensive end slash edge, who was picked in the 4th round, he was still in the green room when he got picked. Roger Goodell came out and made the selection, or announced the selection rather, and Sorrell came out like he was, he's been sitting there the whole time. He knew he wasn't going to get selected in the 1st or the 2nd. If you go to Bleacher Report and look at his scouting report, he's listed as a grade of 6.3, developmental prospect, 5th round, edge, 20th edge, 180th overall rank. Pro comparison, Bryce Huff, that's not bad. He's a very, very good player, though. But he was still at the draft. That was a fantastic story, and I think just him sitting there and waiting for his name to get called, and then he's in Green Bay, and that's the team that selects him. I have the most confidence that this guy is going to go off in Green Bay. I think Sorrell is a potential for double-digit sacks multiple times, multiple seasons, back-to-back, consistently. He's steady, reliable, physical player. He can switch from edge to off ball. He played in a 4-3 defensive end style at Texas in 3 years. He was a 91 percentile athlete relative to size at edge rusher. They say he never gives up on plays. He plays hard the entire time. He's a huge he has high marks and is a huge leader and a great person, according to teammates at Texas and players that he did play with and knew him. There's like a lot of things, especially with history of the Packers and their mid-round drafting players, where it's like this guy is really set up for a lot of success here historically and just how he plays. He has this forever motor. Some stuff off of Bleacher Report that I read. I mean, he's 6'3", 256. He had a 4.6 40-yard. But some positives was that he has nice burst off the line of scrimmage, active hands, solid at working offensive tackles' hands after contact, good agility, flexible hips, likes to flip the hips, athletic, very athletic. If he's unblocked, he can make tackles in space against wide receivers. That's important on jet screens and sweeps. The problem is that he does play with a high pad level, which, you could fix. You could get him to play lower. They say he's not physical as strong at the point of attack, lacks rotational strength, and needs to rush with more of a plan, doesn't have a lot of counter moves, which, again, are things that he can learn and develop at the pro level, especially with the Packers. The top pick, though, that I have to say, obviously it's that number 1 pick. So Matthew Golden, who nobody thought was going to fall to the Packers in round 1, fell in their lap. I mean, it just fell there. And this is the home run pick that the Packers needed in Green Bay. This is the home run pick that Mark Murphy wanted to end his, drafting career and front office career with. This is going to be Mark Murphy's last year in the front office. This is going to, or as president, I believe. This is, he hosted the draft in Green Bay as a Packers president. He announced the pick. He had a fantastic speech. He let us know, it was great. Everything about it was great. First time in, I think, 23 years that they picked a wide receiver. And not only was it a wide receiver, but this is the fastest wide receiver at the combine who ran a 4.28 or something, 40. He has elite speed, fluid within routes. His stop-start acceleration is insane. ball skills down the field with body control, especially near boundaries like out of bounds or, back of the end zones, stuff like that. Terrific hands, inside out versatility for not only, playing inside, but could also play out, along with make cuts inside if he needs to on routes to get open. Pretty much could be the number one wide receiver for the Packers, especially with, what's going on with Christian Watson. Very, very high potential. Was expected to be one of the first wide receivers off the board. He's only 21 as well, which helps. He doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on the body as being a younger wide receiver. Really free releases with pre-snap motions, deep crossers, corners, which Matt LaFleur really likes to use. With the vertical speed, is really just set up for a lot of success for him. It's just a lot of positive things. He showed a lot of great flashes at Texas. He really was like a security blanket for Quinn Ewers and Archie Manning last year. He gets to reunite with his teammate Baron Searle, who I just had spoke about. The big question mark pick, though, was Anthony Belton. Picking him in the second round was just a little strange. So when you look at this pick, not only are you picking this player, but you have Trey Amos sitting out there. You have Mike Green sitting out there. Will Johnson. You have multiple players. Benjamin Morris, Siobhan Revel. You have corners that you need. You have a defensive end defensive line guy, rather, Mike Green, who, people had first round. I had him going first round. I had Mike Green going to the Commanders in the first round. And just to see him, still around, I had Will Johnson going 11. Seeing these guys still around is just mind-blowing to me. I'm trying to see who else I had here who was still available, but nobody. Nobody that went that high. But, I get the injury here with Will Johnson and Revel and Benjamin Morris, but you had Trey Amos who didn't have an injury. That's a position of need. So, apparently what we got outside of the Packers drafting Micah Robinson in the 7th round at corner is that Jair Alexander is probably coming back. Jair is going to be back. The Packers are very happy with their corners. Don't believe that we need a whole lot of extra depth or, to improve at that space. I also believe from this draft, outside of getting Baron Searle, Colin Oliver, and Warren Brinson from the D-line, the Packers are pretty happy with their pass rushers as well. They're pretty happy with their their defensive tackles as well. Warren Brinson, I'd say, is probably, I guess, a defensive tackle, but he's more of defensive line. So his scouting report, pro comparison was DeAndre Coleman. He projects, it says, more as a developmental talent who could eventually earn rotational snaps as a penetration style player. He has the build of gap control player, quick to penetrate, shoot gaps, create chaos in the backfield, but he's not consistent enough to be considered a ready-made player. But all the physical tools are there for him, a 5.09 40, a 1.76 10-yard split on there. Did not do the bench, so don't have those. But good first step quickness to attack gaps, sufficient length and plus mass. He looks the part as an interior defender, could cross face, beat lateral contact with initial rush strikes with play of hands, which are all great. The things that are negatives was the block diagnosis and hand usage to deconstruct blocks at the point of attack needs development. Does not showcase desirable level of versatility as a rusher to be ready-made member of the rotation. and can struggle with leverage and get knocked off his pass rush and rush track by heavy punches. Those are a little bit of a problem. They said the ideal scheme fit is a roll. He's built a quickness to be an effective rotational talent who attacks gaps. His leverage and block deconstruction efforts must be more consistent, though. They gave him a 6-round value. That's where he was picked. So that's what we got. Now, that's not a starter. That's obviously a rotational player, off of everything that was said there. So on Micah Robinson, that's the corner that we got. They say here, NFL caliber top end speed, lacks short area shiftiness to match slot targets, which might be something that he's asked to do, but lacks ideal size. Tough run supporter when plays flow his way. His strength has showed good speed at Pro Day, possesses recognition and ball skills to flip the field with interceptions, displayed better discipline with his techniques to cut back on penalties, a feisty run defender who pounces and finishes when tested. That's all good. That's all positive. But, you're a corner, so your negatives of lacking size and length is something to be concerned of. But, however, we've seen smaller corners really excel. Below average short area agility and quickness to match NFL routes. Again, short area spots have killed the Packers in recent years, especially, when you match up with a guy, when we've had past defensive coordinators, whatever the hell his name was, Barry, the last coordinator, I don't even want to remember his name, how bad he was, so my brain doesn't want to register that. But we used to line up 10 yards off the line of scrimmage on, second and third and 2, instead of right on it. But, if you can't cover the short area, that's a problem. And then the next weakness from him has trouble allowing longer touchdowns. So you have a problem allowing the deep pass and the short pass. So that's an issue, especially if you have size and length problems. That's kind of a problem. So his grade that they gave him as a prospect is 5.68, which is a candidate for bottom of roster or practice squad. Granted, this is round 7, pick 21 in round 7, so near really the tail end of the draft. So this is just a depth option, see what he's going to bring to the table. Another depth option was John Williams at Cincinnati. He was a 2-year starting left tackle at Cincinnati. So this is, it says stout, thick build, good arm length, big hands, solid play strength, athletic ability, effective zone run blocker, fits on time on front and back side of runs before latching and walling off defenders long enough to solidify rush lanes, which is all positive. High cut frame, incrementally rising pad level, sap his power though, which is a problem. Control late in the rep, leaving him slipped too easily. Again, if you're running runs, that's all right. So his measurements, he's 6'4", 322, 5.1740, which doesn't matter. Shuttle 4.72 and 3-cone with 7.93. They say he understands how to weaponize his length, play long, and keep rushers at fingertips with active, independent hand snatches, bait and flash techniques, which are positive. Again, efficient zone run blocker, which is perfect. Has the range to get to a spot against wide rush alignments with the length to harden his edges, press and wash past the QB's drop, which are all fantastic, and that's what we need, especially as depth. If we see a player get injured again at the tackle positions, if you have someone that does have some size and length and can handle that, that's perfectly fine. However, the problems that come in are, again, erratic pad level results in loss of power. You need to keep your pads low. Obviously, drive the defensive pass rusher up from the pads, shoulder pads, get in this area of the shoulder pads and push up. You rise up these pads. They can't do anything as you rise up the level. Now he loses a lot of power. He can't use his legs properly. Also, making sure you have the first bats, you keep him away and stuff that kind of limits the defensive player from having a lot of effective moves as well. The where this problem comes in is bad habit of striking down the middle of high side rushes, force them into scramble mode. It creates short corners. Again, you strike too fast. That's a problem. Unreliable depth spacing and timing with his drag hand against stunts, twists, creates leakage and penetration. Again, what I was saying with hand motion, you have to make sure that you're very, very careful with that. However, the interesting note, and this is by Brandon Thorne, very respected lineman, defense and offense analysis scout. He breaks down on the college level and on the pro level. Anytime I want to know anything about offensive line, defensive line, I always go to Brandon Thorne's page first. That's number one for me, at least. And he actually has him as a potential role player in the 4th round. So to get him with the last pick by the Packers was just great. 250 overall. So this is like, if he was supposed to be a 4th round and you get him in the 7th, this is almost like a steal pick for the Packers. And I'm actually very happy with this pick. Another offensive lineman I'm not, though, that I was saying is Anthony Belton. He was a consensus 3rd or 4th round player. Brandon Thorne, again, let's go back to him. He has him as potential role player round 4. So his overall rank was 172. John Williams' overall rank was 142 and position rank of 10. Anthony Belton's position rank was 12. So, how Anthony Belton goes round 2, I don't know. No idea. But some things about Anthony Belton. He's 6'6", 336, which is enormous. Good arm length, thick, wide-bodied build, heavy hands, jarring power, flashes of high-end bursts seen on backside cutoff screens, climbs, can bang down, feet, and cave in the hips, ribs of targets of double teams, which is very nice. Excels against bigger power rushers because of his size. Finds work when uncovered, with pocket-clearing pop. Plays with physical aggressiveness and has size power to generate knockdowns, which are all great, but his negatives is marginal agility and lateral quickness, upright playing style, late, lean, and overextended against moves across the face, which is a problem. Clunky footwork, again, on the line, just like with like a running back where you have to keep moving your feet, and generate power with your legs and feet, and the whole thing. You keep moving forward and they're trying to tackle you. You keep moving your feet, you're going to keep it, you're going to go. You can get through that. If you stop moving your feet, well, now you lost all momentum, you lost all your leg power. It's hard to get back going again. You got to keep moving your feet. With wide receivers, the footwork's very important as well. With route running and everything like that, quarterbacks' footwork is something that they really look for, almost more than arms. You got good footwork in the pocket, you can make things happen, especially with how you can rotate and everything like that. And that's the same with offensive linemen. You have to continue moving your feet and have good footwork. Keep moving your feet, stay balanced. If you have clunky footwork, which causes heels to click when expanding to set points against high side rushers and crossover when redirecting inside, that's a problem because your footwork is very important as an offensive lineman. You have to keep your feet moving the entire time as offensive lineman. You get stuck and you plant your feet, you put your heels together, you put your toes together, you're off balance completely now. And pass rushers are going to really take advantage of that, especially experienced ones in the NFL, and know exactly what they're doing and how to get you off balance, especially with his size. You pop him up a little bit and you got a big man falling, and that's definitely a cause of concern. It says a high variance pass protector due to being overly reliant on two-hand strike, leaving him with no recourse when his strike doesn't land. The two-hand strike is actually very dangerous as well, especially at offensive tackle, as you are the blind side blocker or front side blocker, but you're pretty much the most reliable player for the Packers or any team on the offensive line. You're the most reliable position at tackle, because if you have an edge guy getting around on the outside, you could really injure the quarterback, force a lot of fumbles, just smoke them from the back, front, whatever the case is. If you put your two hands out on your strikes, well, they knock that down. What are you going to block with? You can't really block with your knee, so you don't have a third. Where's your third arm? You can't block with your third arm if you got a third arm. So you got two arms. That's it. That's all you got. You only got two arms to block. So they knock that down. That's a problem as well. You get one hand out there and knocked down. You still got another one that you could go out and deliver a blow. You could bring it back up. You have different things. But if you knock the two-hand strike down, that's bad. You have to have a quick two-hand strike to kind of give an initial pop, and then get in your motion just to give you a little bit of space at the forefront of the block scheme, especially in pass blocking. Jump out with a pop and back up, and that's very important. Now, if you are doing that and that gets just overran immediately, that's a problem. Now you have no base to set at. But he ran in at NC State's balanced zone-based run scheme. They had a counter mixed in as well. His size is very good. In pass protection, Belton wins using his size, length, and knockback power to stun and engulf rushers that use power and attempt to go down the middle of him while flashing the ability to keep high side rushers at the fingertips and widen the corner. Those are all good things. Just because you widen the corner, it allows not only Jordan Love to get into space and possibly run, or it just lets him jump up into the pocket as well. There's things like Belton has a lot of experience on the offensive line. 32 career starts as a 24-year-old. He could play all four different positions. I don't think he can play center, but obviously right, left guard, right, left tackle. They say it's right now it's possible he'll compete at right guard, but definitely right tackle is an option. Left tackle as a backup, but I don't think they trust him right now as a left tackle. I don't think they drafted him as the left tackle. More so a right tackle, which would be all right because that's not Jordan Love's blind side. However, he's not an awful pick, but later in the draft would have been appropriate for him, especially when you have, like I told you, Trey Amos, who's a very, very good corner, Will Johnson, who's an excellent corner and wouldn't have fallen at all if not for the injuries. Siobhan Revel was a very good corner. Benjamin Morrison's a very good shutdown corner. I mean, you have a need at corner in pass rush. Mike Green, elite, and you just let them go. You pick the offensive lineman who, was 2 rounds ahead of time. But if you watch the draft coverage, especially the Pat McAfee show coverage, you heard Mike McCarthy, an ex-Packer Packer coach. Honestly, he was very good on the show. That show overall was excellent. But you heard him discuss and the fans loved McCarthy and AJ Hawk coming back. They were a lot of fun. It was very fun. Very fun show if you didn't watch it. But McCarthy had said there's teams that have draft boards, and they're going to go off those draft boards. So if the Packers liked Anthony Belton that high, and that's how their draft board was set up, well, who cares what people think in these, writers or whatever the media thinks, even if they're scouts. Brandon Thorne's a very reliable source. He works with Duke. I can't think of his name. Duke Mayweather, I think, who works with a lot of these players, actually. Trains with him and everything in the offseason, so they know firsthand what's going on. He was a coach. He just doesn't want to professionally coach anymore that I'm aware of, but I follow both of them on X. And, I believe that if Brandon Thorne is rating them at a certain grade, I think most teams are going to be following that, grading pattern or pretty similar to it. So this move was a little questionable, just like the third round. Was a little questionable, but I think it is, something to monitor. Savion Williams, I believe that this is a foresighting of Dobbs and Watson both being gone after the season. But Savion Williams is kind of a very, very interesting selection. Round 3, we pick another wide receiver out of TCU. Again, we picked the wide receiver in the first round. I thought that was going to be it, especially what Gutekunst had said before the draft. Hey, don't really need wide receiver. We're good at it. Then they go and pick 2 out of 3 picks as a wide receiver. But Williams has elite height, weight, speed as an athlete, true gadget skills, incredible ability to break tackles, make things happen when he's got the ball in his hand, where he doesn't have to be he doesn't have to be the number one guy. He can definitely thrive, definitely, pick up. He's got potential as a kick returner. They kind of say that he's more of like a Deebo Samuel unicorn type, where he has had experience running the ball. They say he has shaky hands downfield, but he's been a high percentage contested catcher. They've actually had him as a wildcat quarterback last year, which is something that, is an interesting tidbit for it. He's 24. They say there's a lot of development needed as a true wide receiver, but him kind of playing that Deebo Samuel role where he can run out of the backfield, do jet sweeps, wildcat, do handoffs, kind of throw teams off on different things, I think is definitely a very valuable resource. And that's something to definitely keep in mind as we look forward to the season. I would probably grade the Packers draft a B-. Just on the fact, Anthony Belton's a question mark. Savion Williams, while he is, good, I don't know about 2 wide receivers that quick. Picking a corner way late, picking D-line way late. Warren Brinson in round 6, Micah Robinson, round 7, almost at the tail end. Picking John Williams was great. I think that raises the grade a little bit, but Anthony Belton, who is actually ranked under John Williams, is questionable, is very questionable, especially when one went 7th round, almost the last overall pick, and one went mid-second round with very valuable players that you needed on the board. Baron Soro, though, I think is going to explode. I think he's a dark horse defensive player of the year candidate if he gets enough snaps. Definitely somebody to watch for. I think Matthew Golden is going to be that star for the Packers that they need. And, it's going to be interesting to watch the Bucs offseason as well. This show is going to, just looking ahead, if Doc Rivers does get fired, I will have a celebratory show. That obviously will be on a Wednesday, 6 to 7, but I will be very excited on that show. Hopefully that comes within the next week so I can get that out of the way. Brewers are in action. Wisconsin women's softball is closing out its season, going to the Big Ten tournament. UW Green Bay softball as well. UWM baseball is getting towards the end of the season. I believe tennis and the Badgers and Marquette are wiping down. Marquette's in golf right now. Just different stuff going on right now. It's going to be a little bit of a quiet period. More of news, rumors, stuff to look forward to. But it's going to be pretty heavy Brewers, and hopefully we can cover some UWM baseball next week. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Peace.